The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for April 14th, 2026. This is season 15, episode number 62, and episode number 576 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And Taylor, the regular season is done. We are about to embark on the postseason. You're second postseason now with the show, right? If you think about it. And the Black Bears are in the same position basically as they were last year, except for they're in Topeka, Kansas now.
Yeah, it's definitely like feels like the same run, but different scenarios are kind of mixed in there. So very excited about it. It's weird because like looking at the numbers, they're very similar like seasons, like the season compared to last season.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's been so different.
It really has. Okay, so Taylor, there's some news that came on. I want to open up with this a little bit because there's going to be some changes next year in the FPHL, and some of those changes are now going to probably affect the Binghamton Black Bears. The one set of changes that is possible, that is possibly coming, is that the Watertown Wolves may not exist next year. There's been some rumors and some stuff happening behind the scenes that I've been told about, but then a news agency up in Watertown has reported that the team has 30 days to be purchased by somebody else or it's done. And the implications of that for the Black Bears and the Hat-Tricks are really great. They're big. They're big implications because if Watertown's not here, the travel schedule and the travel budget will have to increase a lot. And more than likely, we'll go from playing 16 games against the Danbury Hat-Tricks to potentially, I mean, I can only imagine, Taylor, we could be looking at 20 games against the Danbury Hat-Tricks. And that might be a conservative number to say right now because of travel expenses, they might play 22, 24 times possibly against each other. And I can't even imagine either team wanting to have that if for some reason the Watertown Wolves are gone.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it since, it's been circulating, and to think that we could face Danbury even more times than we did this season and even more times than we did Watertown this season. I mean, how sick were we of facing Watertown? And we're just the fans. I can only imagine that both sides, the fan bases are either A, going to get sick and tired of it and just stop coming, or it's not going to be competitive at any point. It's just going to be, we're going to face them yet again. There's no... If one team's doing really well, like let's say if Binghamton goes in and wins the first 10 games right in a row, where's the competitiveness? Like what makes these teams want to come back and actually compete to win a game against one another when they're doing it multiple more times in the rest of the season?
Yeah. So
I can definitely see if something like that happens where we do take and we face Danbury a bunch more times, that it's going to be hard for the teams. It's going to be hard for the league. It's going to be hard for the fans. It's going to be hard for everybody involved because I can imagine that you'll see attendance drop for those games. You're going to see, they're not going to want to show up for these games. I know that was a big thing that Brant's talked about is how do you get up and want to go face Watertown for the final time after you've done it 16 other times this season.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see that being a huge problem. And that's probably my biggest concern. It's not facing Danbury because we haven't really had any issues with Danbury, and it's been kind of a good season with them this year.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the amount, the quantity, and the quality you're going to get because of it.
And you mentioned part of what I think is a big thing. This is a league problem. This is going to be a problem for the league, for sure, to only have two teams in the Northeast. And not only the travel schedule will double in size for both Binghamton and Danbury in some cases, but it does create this what if Binghamton comes back with the same exact players as they do now? And if Danbury does not figure out their problems in Danbury with that team, and not picking on MJ Merkel, because I don't think it's necessarily his fault, but and of course you cannot, put any blame, or you cannot, say anything about Johnny Ruiz, because that is what it is. And hopefully he just lives a very long life. But my point is, if they come back the same way as they are now, you're going to be looking at could Binghamton win 18 out of 20 games against Danbury next year? That would be not good for the league, not just Danbury, but just overall, it won't look good. And some of the other things that I've been hearing from behind the scenes, the league is going to go in with maybe stepping back a couple steps instead of going forward like they normally do. If some of the things pan out, from some of the things that I've been hearing about some changes that are going to be happening next year. And I just want to throw that out there because I think it's important. But the Watertown news is kind of like already there. They've got 30 days, and that's unfortunate. Now, the Binghamton Black Bears, they're in Topeka, Kansas right now. They did travel on Monday, a very long travel day for the guys on the bus, but they did have a big, huge sleeper bus like they had last year. And they're there. I've already seen a picture of them on the ice in Topeka. So they're getting used to that ice for the first time because, whenever you go in, it's a bigger arena. They've played in bigger arenas before. It's a bigger arena than here in Binghamton. But so they'll get used to it. That's not going to be a problem. But Taylor, without a doubt, them going out there, sleeping last night in a hotel and then sleeping tonight in a hotel, they should be rested and ready to play on Wednesday, which is very important.
Yeah, realistically, I'm never concerned about the team traveling. This season alone, I know we've harped on the schedule, but the playing just Friday and Saturdays and, that extra Wednesday here and there.
Yeah.
I think that's been a huge difference because, the season before where it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you had to turn right around and play a Wednesday game, and it was travel. And so I'm not too worried about the traveling. It's great that they're already out there. They get to have those rest days and already get, have some playing time on the ice. I think that's a huge thing, especially for somebody that you've never seen in an arena you've never been to before ever. Because it's brand new to everybody this season.
Yeah.
So that's super important. And yeah, I'm very excited to kind of see. I've never watched a Topeka game, so I don't know what their camera angles are like, but I really hope it's better than some of the other arenas that we've seen.
Yeah, there's a couple arenas in the league that have suspect, as I will call it, camera angles.
It's not their fault. It's just really small arenas don't allow for good camera angles.
No, this is true. And then sometimes some teams have one camera. And, staring at the screen for 2.5 hours for one camera is really painful in some cases. I do like the fact that when you watch the Port Huron Prowlers, if you ever watch their feed, they have multiple cameras. And then they have Aiden, who's the guy who you see when they come to Binghamton. He's running around with a camera attached to his body like he's like the Terminator or something, right? And but he provides great views for the Port Huron audience. It's one of the best things about Port Huron is the fact that the new owner puts so much time and money and effort into really kind of improving their broadcast, and they do a very good job. So I do hope. I have seen some footage from Topeka, and I think it'll be good for most people. But I don't know. Are you excited for these games? We don't get midweek games much in Binghamton. It's only been twice this past regular season. But we get a midweek, a Wednesday night playoff game for the Binghamton Black Bears. Are you excited about that?
I'm very excited because it breaks up your work week a little bit. You kind of get to focus on hockey and have that fun energy. And then you get to carry that through the rest of the week into Friday where you get to come back to the arena and, hopefully they come out of Topeka with a win and there's just nothing but energy in the arena is kind of what I'm hoping for. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm very interested to kind of see how this team works. I know that we'll dive into it a little bit more, but you and I have talked that we probably know a little bit more about this team than we probably ever thought we did, just as far as who's on it wise. So that'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, if you've been watching the FPHL over the past 3 years, a lot of the players that we can talk about and we'll talk about on the show this week is players that have played in the FPHL, from Motor City to Elmira when there was a team in Elmira. There are players on this team sprinkled from all over the FPHL, including from Binghamton. I mean, Cam Clark, I messaged Cam Clark last night and I said, "Are you ready for this?" And he goes, "So ready." Like, he's so excited to play against his former team and to, in some ways, this is what players do. They get the mindset in their head, and Cam is a great guy. Love him. And he's a great competitor. And Coach Sherwood would tell you this as well, right? But he's excited to kind of show Binghamton, hey, this is what you're missing out on, right? He had 3 hat tricks this year. He got to 100 points this year, combined from his total time in the FPHL. And he's just ready to kind of show Binghamton, hey, I'm still a player. I'm still a competitor. I'm still that guy that helped you win the cup last year, and I'm ready to play. So I'm very happy for him and very excited to see him playing again. And he said it's going to be a little weird coming to Binghamton and being in the visiting locker room, but he's excited to do it, and he can't wait to see everybody.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I can only imagine kind of what goes through their minds. I mean, same with the other players like Ben Chick or Des Murray, for example. Coming into that opposing locker room and probably having fans boo at you as you're coming on and off the ice is probably got to be a really interesting feeling. But I truly hope, and this is absolutely nothing against Cam, but I hope he doesn't get a goal against us. My hope is that, he's never seen Tamay's never seen him. So that's where my mindset is for a lot of this, is that, yeah, for like a lot of these guys, like, Tyson and Yates and probably Jansen, Bonner, like a lot of these guys probably know these other players and stuff like that. But at the same time, we do have so many new players on our team, and even, Dominic Tamay, who, again, as I've talked to him about, like, who would he rather face and that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter to him.
No.
It doesn't make any kind of difference whether he knows them or he doesn't know them. So I think that's kind of the interesting factor here, is we know quite a few of these players that are on this Scarecrow team, and yet there's a lot of guys on our team that don't know anything about them. So that's I'm very interested to kind of see how it all plays out.
Now, Taylor, I have one last question before we move on. Do you think Frank Slack will give Cam Clark a little bit of grief as he comes on or off the ice?
Well, it depends, because I'd have to look at the rest of their roster and figure out if there's somebody else he's got more issues with.
Well, I don't think he's got an issue with Cam. But...
Well, no, I know, but there's usually like one player per team that he's got some kind of grievance with, and he's got it. Like, for us, it's usually Lord. Like, Lord gives us a lot of back and forth stuff. And
Trevor Lord's
the new video that they did, Jeremy was so excited because there's the video of Lord coming out around the tunnel, and that's the video right there. That's the video of Jeremy yelling at Lord, and he came out around the tunnel after him. He was so excited that was put into the new video. But so yeah, Lord's a pretty fun one if you get him all riled up. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited. I think there's probably going to be more love for Cam than anything else.
Oh, I'm
who
sure.
Doesn't love Cam?
No, absolutely. He's a competitor. He's a great guy. And then on, Teddy Bear Toss Night, he had a hat trick. And then our buddy Nick Swain decided to trump him and have 4 goals on Teddy Bear Toss Night, which I think is now becoming a tradition. So next year, someone has to score 5 goals on Teddy Bear Toss Night, which would be absolutely insane if that happened. Now, I want to say this. I personally think that if the broom is already inside the arena, can we somehow sneak one of the brooms from the janitor's closets to Frank? He's not allowed to bring one in himself, but what if it's already there?
I'm pretty sure the one he had confiscated is still in the arena. So wouldn't that be funny if we could somehow find his confiscated one and give it back to him?
Right. And then
last year I almost made him like a cardboard cutout of one, just so that way, that he really couldn't get in trouble for it, but he could still have a broom.
That's awesome. That would be great. All right. Before we dive into tonight's show, or today's show, because we're recording this really early for us, and it is a Tuesday, folks, so we wanted to get this out before Wednesday night's game. Let's remind you that we're still doing it through the playoffs. Yes, we're going to do the 11x14 poster giveaway. We are, right, Taylor? I didn't clear this beforehand with you. We are still doing this, right?
Absolutely. Everybody
Okay.
loves it. And it's been a lot of fun, except this past weekend, I had like my own secret mission to do. It was fun.
No, that's true. We are weeks into this, and now we're in the playoffs and the poster giveaway, and your response has been awesome. Like everybody that we've talked to about this has really enjoyed it. And even though Zach Sirota was not feeling well, he still took a picture with the poster, which was awesome. So I'm glad that we're still doing this. At some point in today's or tonight's show, or depending on when you're listening to it, we're going to drop a secret code phrase. Taylor didn't get it this time, but she understands what the code phrase is now. When you hear it, that's your cue to send it directly to Taylor in a private message through Facebook. Taylor will be watching the inbox, and if you're the winning message number tonight or tomorrow or whenever, you'll score an 11x14 Binghamton Black Bears player poster of your choice ready for pickup at an upcoming home game. So stay locked in, don't zone out, and be ready because that code phrase is coming anytime.
Black Bear fans, do us a quick favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the show. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you're following the podcast and leave us a rating. It's completely free to do, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube and Spotify to push the show out to more Binghamton Black Bear fans and more hockey fans just like you. Drop a comment too. We read them, and we love hearing from you.
All right, the Power Play Post Show is available on all major podcasts platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton Hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net, your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton Hockey. And coming up on this episode of the Power Play Post Show, I spoke to on Sunday with Black Bears defenseman Austin DiRazio. And so you'll get to hear that interview. He's very excited about the playoffs. He's just had a great season. And so that's a great interview. You guys will get to hear that. Now, Taylor, we knew that going into this episode, we really wanted to provide as much information as we could about the Topeka Scarecrows and the Binghamton Black Bears, how they matched up. And one of the things that really kind of came up was the schedule. What was the schedule going to be like? We started talking about this a little bit on Sunday's show, and then it really kind of came to a fruition that we were going to really break down their schedule. And you did a lot of work on this. So why don't we start digging into their schedule?
So I looked at the Topeka Scarecrows schedule and kind of broke it all down. They played 3 teams not in the playoffs, playing them 40 times, and they played them against the Sentinels, Zydeco, and the Breakers.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that is that the Black Bears are very similar in this sense, right? They played against 4 teams that did not make the playoffs as well. But it was 44 games that they played against non-playoff teams. So just to kind of throw that into the mix before she gets started here, they played against 3 teams not in the playoffs for 40 games. We played 4 teams for 44 games. Very similar still. I still think that's similar enough to go there. 4 games isn't that much when you're talking about teams that didn't make the playoffs.
So on that note, Topeka versus the Indiana Sentinels, they played 14 games altogether, 5 away, 9 home, and that came with 9 wins, 4 losses, 1 shootout loss. They had 51 goals scored and 37 goals allowed.
That's interesting.
Versus Baton Rouge Zydeco, they also played 14 games. This one was very even, 7 away, 7 home. They had 7 wins, 2 overtime wins, 4 losses, and 1 overtime loss. They had 46 goals scored and 35 goals allowed. So that one seemed more even.
It does.
Across the whole board.
No, I agree with you. I agree. I know that they got the 2 extra wins because there's the 2 overtime wins, but that also means that Baton Rouge at least got a point in those games. And then, even the goals. I mean, it's within 9 goals between what they scored, what they allowed. So very even there between Baton Rouge and Topeka.
And then versus the Biloxi Breakers, they played 12 games. They had 4 home, 8 away. They had 8 wins, 3 losses, and 1 overtime loss. 55 goals scored, and 41 goals allowed. So that is 40 of the 56 games played in the regular season. They had 24 wins, 2 overtime wins, 11 losses, 2 overtime losses, 1 shootout loss. With 152 goals scored and 113 goals allowed, that was a 39 goal difference between them and the other 3 teams they faced 40 times.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this when we kind of look at this, they played 3 teams that are not in the playoffs. They did win more games than they lost. Obviously, that's what you would expect and whatnot. But they did still lose 14 games to teams that aren't in the playoffs that a lot of people considered to be bottom feeder teams, right? Indiana, Baton Rouge, and Biloxi. Biloxi barely got, 10 wins. Indiana, I think 14 or 15 wins, and same thing with Baton Rouge, right? So not a lot of wins amongst those 3 teams going into it. And Topeka still lost 14 games to those teams. I find that a little worrisome for their part. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then taking a look on the other end of that, they played 16 games against teams in the playoffs, which is the Prowlers, Moccasins, and Bobcats. So versus the Prowlers, they had 10 games, 6 home, 4 away, with 2 wins, 6 losses, 1 shootout loss, 1 overtime loss. They had 20 goals scored and allowed 32. So it didn't fare too well against the Prowlers.
No.
Against the Moccasins, they had 4 games, 2 home, 2 away, with 3 losses and 1 overtime win, 11 goals scored and 16 goals allowed. So the goals were kind of similar, but definitely had to squeak one out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Against Blue Ridge, they had 2 games, 2 home, 1 overtime win and 1 overtime loss. So very
even.
They swapped, and then they had 4 goals scored and 4 goals allowed. So very even.
Yeah.
So their remaining 16 games, which is the ones that I just read, they had 2 wins, 2 overtime wins, 9 losses, 1 shootout loss, and 2 overtime losses, with 35 goals scored and 52 goals allowed. So against playoff teams, they are 4-9-3 or 7-9.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk about now what Binghamton went through, because I think when we look at Binghamton's numbers, we'll see things are a little bit different. So the debate about the schedule and Binghamton playing only Watertown and Danbury has a little bit of merit to it. However, Topeka played 40 of its games, as Taylor just said, against non-playoff teams. The Black Bears played 33 games against Watertown and Danbury, and they went 30-3. Right? We've covered that multiple times here on our show, so we won't get too granular on that. Against the Sentinels, they went 6-0, and they shut them out 3 of the 6 games. Against the Thunderbirds, who I think unfairly are put into the non-playoff team category, because they're, Taylor and I both agree they're a little bit better than the non-playoff teams that Binghamton has played and even really Topeka's played. But against the Thunderbirds, they went 3-2. That's 44 games Binghamton played against non-playoff teams. They went 39-5 against non-playoff teams. Now, Taylor, what was that number for non-playoff teams that Topeka played against? I think they were 26-13, 14. Yeah.
Yes.
So Binghamton fared better against non-playoff teams than Topeka, right?
Judging by those numbers, definitely.
Okay. Meaning they played 12 games against playoff teams. Against Port Huron, they went 7-1, scored 38 goals, and only allowed 18. Against PD, they went 1-1, 6 goals for, and 7 against. Against Athens, they went 1-1 as well, 10 goals for, and 5 against. The record against playoff teams, they were 9-3. It seems like a smaller sample size for against playoff teams. But Taylor, if fans have been listening to our show all season long, that's something I've talked about. I talked about it a couple different times where I kind of wish we were playing against teams that were going to be in the playoffs. I really wished we played against Topeka and Blue Ridge during the regular season. I said that. But when you look at the numbers here, Binghamton has played better against non-playoff teams and against playoff teams, even though they split the 2 series against PD in Athens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think kind of jumping back on your point there about, not playing every team in our division and not knowing, like being able to look at the numbers against playoff teams compared to non-playoff teams, that's going to be even worse next year if we have to face Danbury 20 times. Because if Danbury ends up in another situation where they don't make the playoffs again, and we face them 20 times, how are we supposed to be prepared to play the playoff teams if the only team that we've played for half the season is Danbury and they're not even in the playoffs if it comes to that? So it's definitely going to be an interesting season next year. And I think just looking at these numbers, it looks in Binghamton's favor going into this first round.
Right. And where we can also dig a little bit deeper, the 10-minute misconduct crew put out the numbers officially, which I thought were very interesting. I sent you to these earlier. I sent these to you earlier. That's proper English. And obviously we'll look at Binghamton and Topeka. And basically what they did was they did the total goals that someone had for the season, and they split it up between away and home. Now, Binghamton scored 292 goals this regular season. And this is an amazing stat. It really is. And if you don't realize how balanced, how good, how complete this team is, in 292 goals, they scored 146 of them on the road and 146 of them at home. That is that's another just one of those crazy stats that you're like, oh, okay, it's Binghamton. Of course that happened, right? Now, the Topeka Scarecrows only scored 187 goals. 105 of them were on the road, and 82 of them were at their own home rink, which is a difference of 23 goals. Taylor, your thoughts on this stat? Because this one, when I saw it, I was like, no way, this can't be real. And it was.
Well, that's when you first sent it to me, I was trying to understand the numbers better. Because when I first looked at it, I was like, Binghamton 0, that makes no sense. And then I was like, as I read it better, because the format that it sent to me, the way that you had sent it, the numbers weren't all completely like in their categories, I guess.
Yeah.
So once I figured out that it meant like how many goals were scored home and away, and like this is kind of telling you like how good a team is at scoring at home and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it and I was like, so this is telling me that it doesn't matter where Binghamton's playing. They're going to score goals. It doesn't matter if they're home. It doesn't matter if they're away. The home ice advantage to them, it's equal. Where it seems like some of these other teams have like a better chance, like Port Huron, they're at home is 31 better.
Yeah.
So for Topeka to go into the first round and theirs is a difference of minus 23 at home, that's a rough start for them against the Black Bears, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it puts them at a disadvantage if they're not scoring as much at home as they are on the road. It definitely puts them, because you don't listen when you're the lower seed and you got the first home game, and that's the only home game you're going to get, you don't want to have that monkey on your back where, well, if we can't score at home and we drop the first game, we then have to go on the road to one of the best fan bases, one of the best arenas in the league, and then try to squeak out 2 wins. Very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it seems like they do better in away arenas, but they've never been to our arena. And I think it's pretty hard for teams to come in and score against Binghamton.
No, I totally agree. All right, let's do it. Taylor, it is time for the 11x14 player poster giveaway. Please tell the fans this week's special code phrase.
Beat the Crows.
All right, okay, fans, if you're the 9th person to message Taylor with the special code phrase, beat the Crows, you will win an 11x14 poster of your choice. The winner gets to choose from any current Black Bears player and the Black Aces as well, and we'll deliver the poster to an upcoming home game. You'll have to take a picture for Bob because he likes to take pictures of everything. He documents everything. It's just the way he is. No, that's not part of the script. I just threw that in there. Send in that special code phrase, and thank you, obviously, for listening to the Power Play Post Show. All right, when we come back, we'll have an interview with Austin DeRazio, and then Taylor and I will dig even deeper into why we think we know the Topeka Scarecrows even just a little bit more than we thought we did. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. We really wanted to get him back on because he wanted to come back on to the Power Play Post Show. He is now the Binghamton Black Bears Defenseman of the Year, which is named after Peter Laviolette. Obviously, the Binghamton Rangers 2-year defenseman here who had 2 very awesome seasons with the Binghamton Rangers. But the gentleman who won that on Saturday night at the awards ceremony was Austin DeRazio. Austin, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's a pleasure to be on the show again.
Yeah, and congratulations on Defenseman of the Year. Obviously, you had a great season, 28 goals, 38 assists for 62 points, a plus 48 rating on the plus minus. And the last time somebody did that in Binghamton where they led the league, because you led the league in plus minus, was Dakota Bond from 2 years ago, his rookie season as well. Your thoughts on, first of all, getting Defenseman of the Year from the Binghamton Black Bears?
Obviously, it's a great accomplishment, and it really I really feel great about it. I think it goes without saying that I'd be, I play hard and stuff like that, but I'd be, nothing without the guys around me. They help me out all over the ice, especially being, a little bit of a younger guy. They have like that vet mentality, like Dan Stone, CJ Stubbs, Matt Jansen, and Bondarenko, kind of guys that I'm always normally on the ice with.
Yeah.
They help me out a lot. So, it's just as much my award as theirs. So, I just want to, kind of shout them out a little bit because they helped me out a lot throughout this year. And, I'm obviously very thankful and grateful to get the award. So.
Yeah, and the last time that Dakota Bond had the plus minus, the highest in the league, he was on the same line with, of course, Dan Stone. I have a feeling that Dan Stone makes your job really easy because, and we've talked about this before the last time you were on, but he does his job so well, it makes your job a little bit easier to do because you have Dan Stone right there on your right side and he's able to, help out when needed, get the puck moved to you, which then allows you to intermingle a little bit more with the forwards. Talk a little bit about Dan and how important he has been for your career so far this year.
Yeah, he really helped me out a lot. I've said it before on this show, and I've probably said it before to you off air here. But we were probably like the perfect, deep pairing just because he's great with his defensive game and he knows how to shut it down. And then, the puck somehow, he somehow gets the puck back and gets it over to me. And I guess I get up the ice and try to do my thing. And, I think like I said, I think I'd be nothing, this year without, the guys around me. So.
Yeah. And the defensive core has been great. And I think when the coaching staff finally got the combinations together really well, like Dan Weber and Cam Cervone, a great deep pairing. When he put Jesse Anderson and Scott Romakers together, another great pairings. Now, they were both former forwards who have kind of converted to become D-men. But when those three lines kind of are on the ice in the same game together, it does feel like it's a defense that is unmatched. And let's be honest, the penalty kill, number one in the league. Defensively, you guys gave up less goals than any team by far. I mean, the numbers are kind of sick in that sense. Your thoughts on the D-core And the other D members that sometimes you get on the ice with, right? Every once in a while, you might be on the ice with a Dan Weber or something if Stone was out. Your thoughts on the rest of the D corps and how they all played together?
Yeah, I think going back to what you started with in that question, I think, once we found the pairings that clicked and everything that, kind of the puzzle pieces that came together, I think it was honestly by the end of the season now looking at it, it's beautiful to see that, we have such a strong D corps and so many guys that, wanted just as much as me, just as much as the next guy. And we worked so hard, to keep that puck out of the net, to help Dom out, because he works his butt off and to get the puck to the forwards. And I think, our D corps is, if not the best, one of the best in the league. We do our best every night to defend what teams throw at us. So.
Now, one of the more interesting stat lines from this year is that you scored 24 goals, 38 assists for 62 points. And one of the guys who's been in the league the longest that plays on this team is Gavin Yates. And he also had 24 goals and 38 assists for 62 points. You matched up very well, obviously, on, the first D pairing and getting on the power play and scoring 13 power play goals, the most for the team this year. But that stat line that I just read off that you and Gavin had the same exact numbers, it's a good company to be in because Gavin's been an ambassador of the game here in the Fed for a long time now. Your thoughts on that little stat line? It's just kind of unique and kind of interesting.
I mean, it's an achievement alone to kind of get, in the same conversation as Gavin Yates. Besides the fact that even hockey, I think he's one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He just brings such a great energy to the room and brings the boys together. He's the glue. And, I'm happy to be in the same realm as him with points, but, I'm even happier that I made a great friend this year. So.
Yeah, and if he would have gotten one more fight and one more minor penalty, you guys would have matched in penalty minutes as well. But that's besides the point. not an important stat, but fun. Listen, he went with the nickname Bombski or Bomb. I can't even think of it now. It was the longest name on. Yes, which is a great name and everything. Yours was Driz, and we all thought it was going to be D-Raz. Can you explain Driz for us? Because I did put out a little bit of a Instagram story. I'm sure you saw it. I'm like going, I got to hear the story on this. Why Driz?
You know what? It kind of came from Coach Q.
Okay.
He started at the beginning of the year calling me D. Like normally when he was calling out the lines, he was calling out D and Stoner, and it was kind of getting mixed up with which D he was talking about. So I guess he just started to call me Driz, and I guess it correlates with the artist Drake and kind of being from Toronto and my name and stuff like that. So I guess it kind of it all just kind of comes together, and it just kind of made sense. And I guess for Q, it rolls off his tongue pretty well. And I don't mind it at all. And yeah, well, that's what the boys call me around the room.
Yeah. So if it comes from a guy who played in the NHL and he's like the associate coach of the team, you kind of roll with it, right? You and I had a moment at practice about 4 weeks ago. We talked about the influence of Coach Q on this team. Nothing against Brant Sherwood, but even he admits that Coach Q has played at a higher level. Obviously played games up in the NHL, played high-level hockey all throughout, and there is an element to Coach Q that could definitely resonate with some of the younger players. And you were one of the guys that said that. Can you talk a little bit about what he's meant to you this season? Because I know you spoke very highly of him. Yeah,
I think I'll kind of just go back to where I started this year. And it was tough coming off the year I had the year prior. And, I was just kind of looking to get my confidence back, get back in the game, and fall in love with the game. And not let alone Coach Q. I think Schurzy was both of them together. They really made me love the game again, and I was happy to come across their path, and it's really a blessing to have them as coaches. But to get to Q, I think Q really helps me out a bunch. Obviously, he's on the D door, but we kind of relate in the sense, he obviously has an offensive mind. I have an offensive mind, and he played a high level hockey. So I really just listen to whatever he says and try to implement it in my game. And, he does say some crazy things that maybe he can only do, but I try to, do my best out there, and that's about it. Yeah.
Now, the team finished this year 48-6-2. Last year they were 49-6-1. They end with the same amount of points. They end with the same amount of winning percentage, which is really based on how many points you guys got throughout the season, which is why that matches up, even though there's one less regulation loss or one less regulation win. This has been an impressive season. When I said it's so hard to repeat in hockey, but I have a feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I think that a big part of the reason why this team has been so successful isn't just because of the veterans who came in who've won somewhere else or won here, but also because some of the young rookies like you, Dominic Tomei, who have come into this team and kind of said, I want a piece of that championship. I want a piece of that run. Am I wrong there?
I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think, not only us rookies, but everyone on this team is pulling the rope, the same weight, the same, effort. I think there's not a team in this league. There might not be a team in single A hockey. There might not be a team in double A hockey, minor pro, that wants it more than us. I think, kind of the older guys telling us, how great, and having the taste. Obviously, they've had 2 championships in the past. Mm-hmm. I think the vets instilled it in us rookies, the winning mentality, and it comes from the top down. Obviously, Q, Schurzy, but it comes even more from our leaders in our room. That is Kirk's, Yater, Bondo, Janney, like all the older guys, Sarge, even Dan Stone. So, all these guys that have played the game and for a while, we kind of, we're on the same team, but when you kind of have guys that have a lot more information and have won before, you kind of not idolize them, but you listen to them a little bit more, and you kind of you're listening more and talking less. So, but yeah, just going back to your question, I think everyone in this room is pulling at the same weight and effort, and we all want this just as bad as the next guy. So.
You and I talked in our first interview about obviously the couple of seasons prior to you joining the Black Bears. Do you feel like, because you've talked about how you didn't like your seasons a little bit prior to the Black Bears, do you feel like you can look back at this season and go, yes, this was exactly the right place where I needed to be to really get my love of hockey kind of back?
I think there's no doubt about it. I think I absolutely, there's no other place I'd rather be right now. I think I made the absolute right decision, and it doesn't go. I'm not really talking about my success this year. I think it's just like besides the fact of hockey, I think I became a better person and grown, just because. I went through adversity, in the previous years, and looking back at that, like you said, it's tough. But now looking forward, it's great to be in the place I am right now, and our coaching staff and everyone around us, everyone that helps us, even the front office and stuff like that. You're going around and we're talking, and everyone's supporting us. So, you know what? I think it's the best decision, one of the best decisions I've made in my life, and I'm so happy and glad to be a Black Bear. So.
Okay, so we know you're offensively skilled. We know that you can pass the puck as good as anybody on this team. You can probably shoot the puck as good as anybody on this team. But there is a side of you that sometimes comes out that I've noticed, which is sometimes you will line up a guy and lay the big hit. You just did it a couple games ago against, I think you hit Reggie Millette against Port Huron. Where does that energy come from sometimes from you? Because you're fast on the ice, you're zooming around, but you don't always necessarily go and do a lot of checking, and yet boom, there you go. You'll hit a really big hit, and then you'll turn around maybe a shift later and get another big hit. Where does that come from in your game sometimes? Because again, I don't think it's a big part of your game. Not saying it's a critique or anything like that, but boom, all of a sudden, like the hit against Reggie Millette, where does that come from sometimes?
Honestly, I think not to pump my own tires, but I think just my compete level is really high end. I've been pretty self-aware of that recently. That I just love to compete, and I love to. I love to win, and I will do whatever it takes to win. And I'll tell you that right now. And for everyone that's listening, I will do whatever it takes to win, and to bring. We will do everything we can to bring back that cup for the third time. But I just think my compete level is high, and sometimes I get lucky with, in the right position, and I get to lay that big hit, which, fires up the guys a little bit. But, I think I have a little bit of an edge. It's more of, I think it's like a grit thing. But yeah, I think it's just compete level, and I just want to win. So.
Do you think that in the future, if you're going to go to AA or maybe even AAA hockey at some point in your career, do you think that that grit that you just talked about needs to be a little bit more implemented in your game? Or do you think that your offensive skill sets will get you there? Or do you need a little bit of both?
I think, if that time comes, I think I need a little bit of both. That's why I kind of like to show, my grit, my compete a little bit, and in the bigger games, and I think I think it could be a thing that I'm going to need in the future, but I'm kind of just worried about this year and the playoffs coming. So
no, I understand. So the Black Bears brought in at the end of the season 2 rookie defensemen. One is Sam Holy, who is looks like a giant on the ice sometimes when I see him out there. Big boy, fought in his first game when he joined the Black Bears. And then Matt York, whose father was played in the NHL for the Ottawa Senators, who they spent some time here in Binghamton as the Binghamton Senators AHL affiliate was here. Talk a little bit about those 2 young guys, and being that by the time they came in, you'd already played 40 some games with the Black Bears. Was there anything that you could say to them to kind of welcome them to the group and, just kind of give them that, hey, I've been here for 40 games. I can kind of walk you through a little bit of, what it's like to be a Black Bear. Give me your assessment a little bit on these 2.
I'm very new, and frankly, I think these guys are a year older than me, anyway. So
yeah, you're younger than them.
So it's kind of I don't want to go. I never went up to them saying here, this is the league, this is how it's going to be. I mean, there's other guys on the team just guys like that, like older guys that have played 5, 6, 7, 8 years pro. So it's really, I don't think it's my role to be to be, kind of going up to them and being like, hey, this is how it goes. I just kind of look at them as teammates, peers, and good friends of mine. But yeah, those two great players. Yorkie coming in from Elmira, he's a great skater, moves the puck well, he thinks the game well. And same with Sam. They both, they're great pieces to our lineup. Yeah. And I think Sam earned his respect pretty quickly from the vets, in that first game when he fought. So, I think only the best for those guys. But yeah, no, they're great guys even off the ice. So.
Did you play against York at all when you were in Utica? And did you guys ever meet Elmira at all?
Yeah, I believe we played on my freshman year in like the Thanksgiving showcase kind of thing. I think we did beat them. I don't remember. It was kind of a blur that year. So, yeah.
So, okay. So you kind of knew of who he was at least, or at least been on the same ice with him at some point, which is pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming up for you guys. On Wednesday, you guys have a game against the Topeka Scarecrows. They're in your division. I don't know if you knew that because you guys didn't play them at all this year. What do you know about the Scarecrows right now? We're recording this on Sunday. This will air on Tuesday, the day before the game. But what do you guys know about the Scarecrows at the moment?
They're a good squad over there. I think they're a fast team. They move the puck pretty well. We haven't watched video yet. We're going to get on that in the next few days here, probably on this long bus trip. But from what I've heard, they move the puck well. They have a pretty good power play, and their PK does well too. So their special teams are not too bad, and we're gearing up to go into Topeka and take our points and come back and finish it at home hopefully, and it's going to be a great series, but I think we're ready for it. I know we're ready for it, and you're going to see the real Black Bears on Wednesday and Friday. So.
My thing is you guys going into Topeka, you guys haven't played on that ice before. You haven't played against this competitor. So you can watch video. You can see their tendencies. I know they play some man-on-man defense. I was talking with Coach Sherwood a little bit about that. And, that's great. I think the speed will overcome man-on-man pretty well because the Black Bears have proven that. If you try to play man-on-man, you guys are going to skate around them. So when it comes to it, you can watch a little bit of video, but is it really more the mindset? Go in there, play our style of hockey, and we'll be fine.
Absolutely. I think you said it best right there. I think if, everyone, you can only do so much video. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you can come down to all the analytics and stuff like that, and who's playing where, but it all comes between the ears and and the heart. I think if whoever wants it more in this series is going to win, and I'm very confident that we want it more, and we're going to go into Topeka and take our points and come back home and then we figure out on Friday. So that's our plan. But like you said, you can only just so much video, and it really is just who wants it more and their compete level at the end of the day. So
okay, so you guys have the day off. Today as we're recording this here on Sunday. Walk fans through maybe at a high level type of thing. You don't have to go into the granular details. But, give the fans a little bit of an insight. What's a day off look like for you after playing 2 games in a row on Friday and Saturday night? What's a Sunday look like to you? Give them a little bit of a glimpse of that.
A day off, some Sundays, okay, I think most of the Sundays I'm pretty much at the rink. I try to get into the sauna a lot, on Sundays, just kind of like, sweat out all the bad stuff and be kind of ready for the week. And it's basically just a repair day, reboot day, kind of just getting ready for the week coming up. And we don't really get very many days off, so I just kind of hang out, probably play some video games with Mac Jansen or a couple of guys on the team. But that's pretty much it. We don't really do much on off days, but I'd say I get to the rink, try to get a sauna, maybe if I'm feeling courageous to do a little light workout. But I think Sundays are mostly just recovery, and we hang out, play video games, and that's pretty much it.
I know you said you're going to watch golf today, but if you were going to play video games with Janny, which game are you guys playing?
Oh, we've been playing Fortnite lately. Yeah, probably the young audience that's listening here is going to love that. But yeah, we've been playing a lot of Fortnite lately. But yeah, I know today I'm going to watch, the rest of the Masters here, and hopefully Rory wins it again. That'd be pretty cool.
No, that would be pretty awesome for him, which would be great. And the Florida Everblades won 3 in a row. The Hershey Bears have won 3 in a row recently. When you think about it, I know you weren't with the team for the first 2 championships, but your name will be tied with a legacy if you guys win this season and win everything. That's a pretty cool thing, right? I mean, it makes for a very fun season. So let me ask you this. Have you had fun this year?
Absolutely. I think that goes without saying. I think it's really hard not to have fun with, the guys in this room. It's like kind of traveling everywhere. Yeah, we had to go to Danbury a couple times, or 10 times. 12 times or Watertown 10 or 12 times, but we all made the best of it, and we all just it made us closer as a team. And I can't express how much fun I really had this year. Through the ups, the downs, I wouldn't change it for the world. And now we're here at the games that are do or die kind of games, and it feels a little surreal that we're already here. And I'm very excited for this, next few weeks here, and bring that third cup back to Binghamton where it belongs.
Yeah, and put another banner up in that rafters for people to see for many, many, many years going forward. Austin, thank you very much, or Driz, as we can now affectionately call you, because now we understand where that came from. Thank you very much for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. Good luck against Topeka. What we're looking for is that win in Topeka, to come back and win it on Friday, and then everybody can have the weekend off, right? It'd be kind of nice to have the week, because the Black Bears have not had a weekend off this year, and so it would be very nice. But good luck this week against the Topeka Scarecrows. Everybody's going to be watching.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and it was a pleasure to be on the show. We're going to take this game by game, period by period, shift by shift, and win every 5 minutes, and that's the plan. So, we'll see you guys Wednesday, and we'll be ready to go.
Awesome. He is Austin D'Orazio, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was Austin D'Orazio, and we are set and ready to kind of give you more on the Topeka Scarecrows. But before that, support the Power Play Post Show by subscribing on YouTube. When you subscribe and like episodes, it signals to YouTube that hockey fans are engaging, which helps recommend the show to more viewers. As our community grows, we're able to deliver more interviews, insights, and hockey discussions. Subscribing and liking is the most effective way, and completely free way to support the show. Join fellow hockey fans and subscribe on YouTube today. All right. So, Taylor, we're going to get into the preview in just a second, but one thing that Brant Sherwood talked about with me in the interview was Topeka's man-to-man defense. They execute a man-to-man defense more than they do anything else on defense. And he said that he believes he could, use that to an advantage for the Black Bears. Now, the Black Bears use a hybrid version of defense, which is a little bit of man-on-man when needed, but mostly zone defense. Now, the biggest example I can give fans to let them know what zone defense looks like. There are times when teams come into the offensive zone or our defensive zone, and you will see someone like Dan Stone parked on the left side or the right side, depending on where he's playing, depending on how the puck came into the zone. And you will see him using his stick, going back and forth, trying to plug up the lanes and using his body to be as big as he can be. He's trying to stretch his body out, and he's trying to cover a whole area of ice, because zone defense is primarily a defender is assigned to a zone on the ice. And man-to-man is exactly what you think it is. You're putting one person is assigned to another person, and you got to be on them. Unfortunately, what happened over the last 10 to 15 years in hockey, especially in the NHL, and of course, you have Brant Sherwood, who studies the NHL all the time. You have John Quinville, who played in the NHL and played in high-level versions of hockey. What the changes that happened when we went from man-on-man defense all the time to more of a hybrid or more zone defense happening is it limits the time and space and options. So in other words, limiting time. You want to change out your defenders or your lines every 35 to 45 to maybe a minute of time on the ice. What that does is it keeps the defenders refreshed and not too tired, because when you play man-on-man defense and you're chasing a guy all over the ice, and these forwards and these centers and these wingers are all really, really fast, and they're very good athletes. And when you have defenders skating backwards trying to keep up with them, they get tired. So what it does is it limits the time and space and options. So it limits the time. So you want to keep defenders fresh. That's what zone defense does. Zone defense doesn't chase the player, but defends the zone on the ice, right? So and what they're trying to protect is the player to being able to get into the slot. We talk about the slot all the time. If you remember when we talked about the shootout goals, coming in through the middle, coming in through the slot instead of going all the way to the outside, right? In zone defense, you want to push the puck to where the player doesn't have a good high danger shot, but is on the perimeter. Okay, keeping the puck from the slot is very important here. If the puck goes too low to high, the defender pushes the responsibility to the other defenders. So in other words, if Taylor, if you're down, you're covering a guy, and you're down on the left-hand side of the goal, and you're in the corner, and that puck goes out, you don't follow the puck. You defend your zone. You let another defender copy or take care of that assignment. Collapsing in front of the net is key also in zone defensive play. So in other words, if the puck does come into the slot, everybody kind of closes in on the goaltender to make sure that he's protected. Now, why do people use a man-on-man? Well, you provide an assignment on the high-skilled players, right? So I'm out there on the ice with CJ Stubbs, and Brant Sherwood says, Bob, I want you defending CJ the whole time, because I'm the best defender on the ice and CJ's the best forward on the ice. And you put them on man. But what happens there is that CJ is going to beat me almost every single time. He's going to find a way, because forwards are almost always, especially centers like CJ, the best athletes on the ice. So assigning a player to a player puts on pressure, but the positioning is lost, and the key is to good zone defense. So it's something where when you play man on man, generally the forwards are going to find a way around. They're going to deke the D-man, and then what happens is you will then have 5 guys past their 1 guy, so it's almost like it's a power play opportunity, and it provides more options. You know, if a team is using man-on-man defense, and this is what Brant Sherwood and John Quinville are going to be looking at, if a team uses man-on-man defense, cycling the puck, so getting the puck in to the corner and then moving it high from low to high is one of the ways that you're going to open up the lanes, because you're going to move a defender to somewhere he doesn't want to be, and then you're going to have a lane to shoot at the goalie. You're going to do running, give and go plays, and use quick positional rotations will beat man-to-man pretty much all the time. Now, a lot of teams use the hybrid method, which is using both before and ever. So sometimes when you're on the power play or you're on the penalty kill, right, and you're a defense and you're on the penalty kill, the first thing you might do is you might actually almost immediately, when the puck is being dropped in a faceoff, you might do man-on-man for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then you drop into a zone kind of defense. And you see the Black Bears do that every once in a while. The most important thing here is zone defense protects the slot. Man-to-man disrupts the high-skill players. So what he said in my interview with him is that Topeka likes to play man-on-man. And he thinks that with the type of players that we have playing zone defense, we're going to be able to, shut them down on our end. But then when they play man-on-man on us, we should be able to beat them with our high-skilled players. I thought it was an interesting point that he made, and I kind of wanted to explain that to the fans, and hopefully it wasn't too confusing. There is a lot there. Nowadays, no one just plays strictly zone defense, and no one plays strictly man-on-man. You have to play the hybrid of the two.
I mean, it definitely made a lot of sense to me. And, you know, the more that you were talking, the more I was like, I don't see how man-to-man could work against a team like Binghamton.
Right.
Because it's almost like if you're going man-to-man, you're basically saying that your defense is better than their forwards, is kind of like how I was putting it in my head.
Yeah.
And that's a very tough thing to do against a team like Binghamton. So if their plan is, to stick to that man-on-man, then you're going to give Binghamton the space. And we all know what you do when you give Binghamton space. So that's all I got to say about that.
No, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, let's get into the preview, because the first part of this preview, we're going to talk about a lot of players, because there's a lot of players. Well, I mean, we're not going to talk about them individually, but we're going to mention some players that Topeka has that should sound familiar to any Binghamton Black Bears fan that's been watching for the past 3 years.
So previewing the first round matchup between the Binghamton Black Bears and the Topeka Scarecrows. And when we say we know more about the Scarecrows than we thought, it's because these players have played on other teams that have played against the Black Bears in the past or played for the Black Bears. So first up, we have Stephen Klink, who we all remember from Watertown, that everyone was shocked that he got traded.
Yep.
Scott Koash, who was from Motor City.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Stephen Klink he scores a lot against us. And he's a skilled player. When he goes into the offensive zone, he knows exactly what he's doing. And it'd be interesting to see. Now, I know he's on one of their top lines. So we will see a lot of Stephen Klink for sure.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, he was top line with Watertown. So, I mean, he does score a lot against us, but we also know a lot about him from being in Watertown. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that helps to both of our advantages.
I agree.
So Scott Koash, as I just mentioned, he's from Motor City Rockers. Cam Clark, as we've already talked about, is obviously from Binghamton. Trevor Gradsby, also a former Watertown Wolves. A lot of former Watertown Wolves.
Yeah, I noticed.
Trevor Lord is another one. He was with the Watertown Wolves the previous season, and he was with PD this season until he got traded.
Yep.
Josh LaBelle is another one. He was with Danbury for a long time before he went to Twin City. I think it was midway through this season where he got traded to Twin City.
Yeah, and he played those 2 games that we lost to the Twin City Thunderbirds. Josh LaBelle, a defenseman, was on there, and he scored in both of the games against us when Twin City was here in Binghamton.
Then they've got Jacob Gagnon, who are the Danville Dashers of last season, who are no longer.
Yep.
TJ Sneath, also from the Motor City Rockers. Avery Smith from Athens Rock Lobsters and from the Motor City Rockers. And then somebody that we should be pretty familiar with in net for both of these guys is Sammy Bernard with the Columbus River Dragons and the Elmira River Sharks from 2024. And then Matt Lenz from the Watertown Wolves is now with Topeka.
Yeah. Now, I don't think we'll see Matt Lenz in the series unless something happens to Sammy Bernard. I really, truly think that we'll see Sammy Bernard. But Brant Sherwood has seen all these players. He's seen all of them play. So he's kind of familiar with the play of these guys. Now, they're led by their head coach, which is Robbie Nichols. Now, Robbie Nichols has been a part of minor league hockey for 20 plus years, probably closer to about 26 years since the first arena was built in Elmira. I believe he was in Elmira very early on in the creation of that arena. So he's been around for a long time. He's been a head coach.
Gavin Yates has played with him.
Gavin Yates actually played for him. Matter of fact, the whole reason why they picked Don Oliveri was because they wanted to trade for Gavin Yates today. He thought Gavin would come and play for him in Topeka. And now Gavin probably has good thoughts about Robbie Nichols. He probably knows him. He's probably comfortable with him. It doesn't mean he wants to leave a cash cow type of place like Binghamton for Topeka, a first-year team. It's a very hard thing to do. If you can't even make a phone call to Chris Mott and say, hey, Chris, this is Robbie Nichols from the Topeka Scarecrows. We just picked you up in the expansion draft. We want you to come out. If you can't even make that phone call, you're probably not going to get Gavin Yates to come out to you. But he did play, Gavin did play for Robbie Nichols in the Fed here back in Elmira just about four years ago, I think it was. So they know each other. So now Gavin's not playing this week, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, the only information that Robbie Nichols is going to have on the Binghamton Black Bears from this season is anything that Cam Clark can tell him. And you can't blame Cam Clark. He's no longer part of the Binghamton Black Bears. He's going to talk to, Robbie Nichols and try to give him as much information as he can. Now, the one thing that Cam hasn't seen is Dominic Tomei, like you mentioned as well.
Yeah, I mean, Clark can give any information that he wants from, his time being here. But at the same time, as similar as this season compared to last season was, it's completely different scenarios and circumstances. And I think, they can probably look at some of the players because, Clark has played with those guys. But at the same time, still brand new faces that are coming in. And it's just a whole new kind of team almost, even though it didn't really feel like it when we got started. But it'll be, I think he can only give so much information that's actually going to be helpful, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't blame him for trying. And, I definitely, it'll be kind of interesting to see, how Dominic does in his playoff run here. I'm going to assume that he has the run kind of like Connor McNanama did, where it's his net type of thing. I don't know if that's the case. That's just what I imagine because, we had Connor and he was stellar and he did phenomenal for us. So that's what I'm hoping that Tomei does for us as well.
Now, looking at their goals for, they scored 187 goals this season. I would say about 55% of the goals scored by the team was scored by the guys that are literally that we just read off, like except for obviously Sammy and Matt Lenz. They didn't score any goals, but a lot of the goals that they got this year came from those guys. So these are the guys to be looking out for, to be thinking about. You're going to recognize the names. You might see Josh LaBelle, score a weird goal that, it's like, wait a second here. Defensively, he's not the greatest player on the ice, but then boom, he turns around, he can score. He gives up plays all the time. It's the reason why Danbury let him go. It's the reason why Twin City had no problem letting him go. The guy does score goals, but for some reason, he also gives up a lot on defense, unfortunately, for any of the teams that have them. So we're very familiar with this team. Scott Koyash was I think he was the assistant captain in Motor City. He might have been the captain. If I'm trying to remember now, but I can't. But I know he was part of the leadership group there. So these guys that we just mentioned, they have some time. And TJ Sneath was a very good defenseman for the Motor City Rockers. This is a team that has the right players. Whether or not they have the right coach, the right preparation going into these games against Binghamton, that's what we'll have to see.
So speaking of the goals that they had scored, looking at some of their numbers, Topeka Scarecrows finished the season in 4th place in the Empire Division with a 30-20-6 record and 90 points. The Black Bears obviously finished first in the Empire Division with a 48-6-2 record, 143 points. The Scarecrows scored, as Bobby just said, 187 goals this season and allowed 165 to their opponents. So that's 3.3 goals per game to their 2.95 goals against per game. Mm-hmm. The Black Bears scored 292 goals this season and only allowed 126 to their opponents, which is a number that we read on Sunday's show, which is 5.21 goals per game and 2.25 goals against per game.
That's double. It's over double. Isn't that the craziest thing? Is that it's actually doubled, and you'll find out that first of all, I think defensively, Topeka is probably okay. Now, they didn't play a ton of games against playoff teams. Well, neither did the Binghamton Black Bears, and that probably inflates our number for the goals for a little bit. But they played 40 games against teams that that couldn't stop a puck either, right? But they only scored 3.3 goals per game. So what's going to come to fruition? Their defensive number of 2.95 goals per game, which is basically 3 goals, right? Or ours 5.21 goals for, right? And if we score 5 goals in a playoff game, the Black Bears are winning because they're not giving up that. Because if you remember last year, Taylor, Connor McAnanimo barely gave up a goal per game in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was an absolute beast last year. That's why, I'm hoping that they kind of give the same kind of stuff to May, and they play really well in front of him, and they don't allow anything. And all I can think about right now is the little video ad they did where Dominic was like, "No goals, no goals,
no goals."
That's all I can think about. And I did look up Scott Koash there from Motor City, and he was an alternate captain, assistant captain. However, I know it gets labeled every other thing, and I will probably get picked on no matter what way I say it. So I'm going to say both.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a leader for the Motor City Rockers.
I thought so. Yeah. He just say it. He wore the letter A on his jersey. That always works.
Yeah.
Easier way. Then no one can really pick on you for that.
So looking at these two teams and how their seasons ended, the Scarecrows won their final 2 games of the regular season, a 5-2 win over the Sentinels last Friday, then a 2-0 shutout win over the same Sentinels on Saturday. The Black Bears won their final 4 games of the season, a 5-1 win over the Port Huron Prowlers on April 3rd, a 9-1 win over the Wolves in Watertown on April 4th, a 4-3 win over the Hat Tricks in Danbury on April 10th, and lastly, a win over the Hat Tricks in the season finale, 3-1 in Binghamton.
Yeah, and I don't think you can read too much into either one of those, both finishing. I mean, the Scarecrows beat the Sentinels, and other than the Port Huron Prowlers, the other 3 games, really didn't matter, and I don't think we played all of our regulars in the last 2 games. So you can't really look too much into that. But as I've always said, it's better to win going into the playoffs than lose.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I'm kind of glad that Danbury seemed like they were trying to, definitely working to get a win, and they were definitely playing really hard. But as you just mentioned, we also didn't play with, our regulars for those away games. And I think that's something, even Brant was like, how do you get these guys to want to get up and go play Watertown for the last time? And they still did, and they still showed up, and they still did a great job. So, yeah, I don't look too much into the last couple of games. It's definitely how, with the traveling and the preparing to, play that first game. I feel like the first game tells you a lot on how the rest of the season's going to go. All
right. So before we finish the little preview, I think you probably saw, because I might have tagged you in it, I don't know if I did or not, Don Oliveri was released by the Topeka Scarecrows today.
I did see it because I know somebody had sent a message in our group chat, and then you had made your post because he commented on there, and it was so cute. But I commented back to him and I was like, that penalty box, those Twizzlers, they're getting real lonely this season.
Yeah, they might be a little stale at this point. I'm sure they've been replaced out, but it was kind of funny. But I didn't want to make the post right at first, Taylor, because I was like, if I make this post, people are going to be like talking about it, and then and they still did anyways. I said, no, there's no chance. He's not coming back. He's a hero. He's a firefighter. He's a dad. Those are important things, right? And people were like, oh, we still want him back. We still want him. Guys.
He even commented that he was ready to sign today, and you just crushed his dreams for him.
Yes, I'm putting in a nix on this. Don Oliveri is not coming back to the Binghamton Black Bears this season. He can't because it's the playoffs, and he can't play in the playoffs. And next year, we don't even know the situation that we're going to be in. We don't know if Brant Sherwood will be here. If a new coach is here, maybe he wouldn't want Don to come in to do the celebrity contract thing. So, guys, just let it go. Just congratulating him on him being a firefighter and a hero and protecting, the Philadelphia area, and we'll go from there. But it was pretty cool to see that happening with Don Oliveri being released by the Topeka Scarecrows today. Of course, the day before the playoffs begin against them. I thought that was interesting. All right. The Scarecrows are led by Stephen Klink. We all know him from his time in Watertown. This year, he's played in 49 games, scored 38 goals, 41 points, or 41 assists for 79 points. He has scored 9 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 5 game-winning goals. Scott Koash, who, as Taylor mentioned, did wear the letter A on his jersey for the Motor City Rockers, in 56 games this year, he's got 33 goals, 29 assists, 62 points, 7 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals. And, of course, again, he played 56 games for the Topeka Scarecrows, so one of their big leaders there on the team. Cameron Clark, 50 games played, 30 goals, including 3 hat tricks for Cam Clark, 23 assists, 53 points, 10 power play goals, 1 shorthanded goal, and 4 game-winning goals. Nice to see Clarkie scoring on the power play. Just don't do it this week. Sammy Bernard, 19 wins, 11 losses, 2 overtime losses, a 2.5 goals against average, and I didn't get the save percentage in there properly. I think it's 918 if I remember correctly. But he does have 3 shutouts this season. Okay. Taylor, anything, pop out at you about the Scarecrows and those numbers?
Not a ton. I mean, looking at Stephen Klink, he's got good numbers, but at the same time, a lot of his numbers came from Watertown, where he played the majority of his season. So even looking at some of these numbers, you can't, take the full thing of that's where they played all season. That's where they're getting all these good numbers. Because, I mean, they do have, quite a few of these guys have great numbers, aside from, Koash and Clark did play for Topeka. But as far as Klink, a lot of his stuff did come from Watertown, and
where he was the main guy. He was the only guy.
Exactly. So I think that'll be kind of interesting to see, how some of these guys fare in the playoffs, I guess, would be the great way to put that.
No, absolutely. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. The Black Bears are led by Ivan Bondarenko, 56 games played, 21 goals, 77 assists for 98 points, 3 power play goals, 1 shorthanded goal, and 1 game-winning goal. It's so weird to read his numbers off first. CJ Stubbs, 53 games played, 39 goals, 58 assists, 97 points, 12 power play goals, 5 shorthanded goals, and 9 game-winning goals. And then Mac Jansen, 47 games played, 32 goals, 34 assists for 66 points, 10 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 8 game-winning goals for Mac Jansen. Dominic Tomei, 28, 2-1 with a 1.83 goals against average and a 932 save percentage, 7 shutouts, single season franchise record, obviously, for Tomei with the shutouts, and tied with Brendan Colgan for the league record. Special teams, Binghamton on the power play did finish 3rd in the league with 79 power play goals and a 25% conversion rate. And on the PK, they were ranked 1st, 39 power play goals against and 88% kill rate. Now, Topeka, we haven't seen them. They're pretty solid on both sides, okay? Power play goals, they were ranked 5th. 50 power play goals with 22%. And on the PK, they were ranked 5th with 41 power play goals against and an 83% kill rate. So, Taylor, looking at those numbers right there, I don't know if we can say that that Binghamton or Topeka really have an advantage on the PK or the power play.
Yeah, it seems like they're probably fairly even in those categories, and maybe we'll get really shocked, and they'll come into these games, this series, and without playing each other ever, and there won't be any penalties.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be kind of nice. All right, before we let the fans go, let's give our thoughts on what we think is going to happen in this series. And I'll let you go first because you're usually the more optimistic one.
I think, they win on the road in Topeka, even though it's a brand new arena, it's a brand new team. And I think there's going to be a lot of familiar faces. I think the Black Bears are going to fare just fine. And I think we win it in 2 and you go to the second round after Friday.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think they go into Topeka on Wednesday night and they basically get a win. They go and they go in there, and I think they take care of business and they win like 5-1 or 5-2, something like that, some number like that, where I think it's probably like 3-2 or 3-1 going into the late part of the third period. And then Topeka, because unfortunately in a 3-game series, Taylor, you can't go down 0-1 in a series and then go on the road and think you have a legitimate chance of winning. I don't want to see Binghamton go down 0-1 because I don't want to see them have to, come home and then have to win 2. That I don't want to see. But I think it's even worse for Topeka to have that happen to them. And I think that's probably what's going to happen is that we're going to have like a 3-1 lead going into the late, and they're going to have to pull their goalie. They're going to have to do everything they can to try to get a goal or two. And that's when we get an extra couple goals maybe is at the end of the game because of the way Topeka has to play a little bit desperate hockey in the last 5 minutes of the game. And then I think we come home and the confidence is there. The fan base will be there, the familiar surroundings, the good night's sleep on Thursday night. And I think they finish it off on Friday.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think if Topeka goes down that first game and then you have to travel the long distance, then you have to play in an arena that you don't have any information about. You've never been there. You haven't, I guess you could say that Lord's been there and Clink and LaBelle. So maybe they maybe they've got some pointers for the rest of their team. But,
yeah,
I think to go into a series like this where it's a long travel and you play a Wednesday game, to lose that and then have to travel to, as you've already mentioned, the best arena, best fan base, that kind of thing, to come into that on a loss, it's got to be tough. And that's got to be something that's very hard. By all means, it could be very possible that they could come into Binghamton and squeak out a win, but to get 2 to take the series would be very hard.
I agree. I mean, they would have to make adjustments. They would have to do something. And, again, they still got to play the games on the ice. We don't know yet. They got to play Wednesday's game before we even get to Friday. And I know we're projecting ahead, and the Black Bears, they're just thinking about tomorrow night on Wednesday as they play against the Topeka Scarecrows. Remember, folks, it is an 8:05 Eastern time start because Topeka is 1 hour behind us. They will be starting at their time, 7:05 Central Time, which means 8:05 Eastern Time is when the game will start. So don't be freaking out at 7 o'clock, like on the message boards and all the forums and everything, or the Facebook groups going, is it on YouTube? Is it on YouTube? Yes. Just go look at the time and the schedule.
And for all those old people out there, we got to get those energy drinks and stock up because it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
That's a late start for me, man. I'm like, my daughter goes to bed at 7 and I'm ready to go to bed at 8. So it's going to be a long night for sure.
especially on the weekdays, right? That's the hard part.
Especially because Thursday is my biggest day with the amount of stuff that I actually have to do for work. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good night.
Fair enough. All right. The Power Play Post is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Be sure to like, comment, and definitely share with your friends. Looking for everything Binghamton Hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net, your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton Hockey. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Patitucci, our musical director, and from the Binghamton Black Bears defenseman, Austin DeRazio. Remember, folks, 8:05 Eastern, Binghamton Black Bears, Topeka Scarecrows, and it should be a fun time. Hopefully they pull out a nice, good win on the road in Kansas, and we'll talk to you very soon right here on the Power Play Post Show. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And we'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.